One more day. Folks, we are almost there. It is Black Friday. It's the Podcast Daily. There's no better way to prepare for the game Saturday at noon than with some bold predictions. That's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. And as per tradition, we must first check in with Birm on his latest vibes.
I think they're on a shirt.
Hey, buddy, you know that there's an audio-only version of this podcast, right?
No, they felt it. They knew what was happening.
Oh. Well, Birm was showing off his T-shirt for those of you on the audio-only platforms, which says Ohio against the world. But he lives in Michigan.
And I mean that in the best possible way. I mean that in like, I'm rooting for the Bengals. I'm rooting for the Browns. I'm rooting for the Reds, the Guardians, the Blue Jackets. I'm rooting for everyone from Ohio all the time because I'm from Ohio, and that means a lot to me.
Well, there is another playoff game on Saturday for an Ohio team. How dare you leave the crew out?
Oh, I forgot about them because I like real sports.
Well, you know what? We don't have time to argue about that nonsense because the most important game of the season is a little over 24 hours away. Bill, get us back on track. Give us the first bold prediction for Ohio State, Michigan.
Sure thing. I like Emeka Egbuka to build on looking like himself again last week, showing that explosion. And he does that by scoring 2 touchdowns in this game against Michigan, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. I think we saw Emeka be kind of the security blanket for Kyle McCord the last time he was in a game similar to this one. I'm not saying the trip to Notre Dame is exactly the same. This is clearly something much different, but on the road against a really good team, Kyle found Emeka a lot. I could see that happening again against this Michigan defense, especially if they end up selling out against Marvin Harrison Jr., which, I think they could end up doing. And on one of those connections, Emeka will find the end zone. And then when Ohio State gets down into the red zone and is trying to finish off drives, I think it is an all hands on deck approach, as I said earlier in the week, and that will involve Emeka being involved in the run game. Now, I'll put a caveat on this. If it is a pop pass that technically goes into the stat book as a pass, I am counting that as a run for the purposes of bold predictions. So I will claim that as being correct if and when it happens. Yes. Yes.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, I was going to specifically predict an Emeka Egbuka pop pass touchdown for my own enjoyment. So you can't have it as a run. If you want him to score on a pop pass, you need to say so right now, Bill.
I think that this is
But
important.
they count it as a run.
Yeah, I think they count it as a pass if it's a pop pass.
Yeah, they do. They count it as a run.
No, look at
Just
the stats
because.
last week, Bill.
No, he's saying that Ryan
Ohio
Day
State
counts it as an extension of the run game, which is fair, but not accurate.
Let's do it this way. We'll put a poll on the video, and Austin and I are on different sides of this. I give Bill the nod here. Austin says no. We'll let the viewers decide. And if the poll will ask, is a pop pass, should the pop pass count as a run touchdown for Emeka Egbuka if he gets it this weekend?
Before I just want to let the Ohio State fans know that I did pick Ohio State to win. Please keep that in mind when deciding whether or not to vote on my side.
If you haven't watched the pick show, you could watch that.
Bold Peas used to be a proper podcast with full drill downs, and now Bill's out here trying to drill up. Give me credit for extra stuff. It doesn't have to count. What is this?
It's about time we started drilling up.
It's a society full of declining expectations. What do you expect? This is life now.
The standard is the standard on this show. We don't have to succumb to societal norms if that's what they expect. We drill down, baby. Drill, baby, drill.
Okay. You got it.
Slurping up those natural
bold
resources.
prediction number 1. Emeka Egbuka will score on a pop pass.
And it'll be a rush.
Anyway.
Is it my turn, or is that your first one?
Well, I got to find something else. I can't do that now.
I've been thinking about this throughout the week, and I was under the impression early that I thought Michigan would do a lot of too high shell type stuff and constantly shading a safety over to help on Marv. The closer we get to the game, I don't think I think they're going to blitz the hell out of Kyle McCord on Saturday, and I think that they're going to rely and let him beat them or not. And that was the Ohio State approach a year ago with J.J. McCarthy. And unfortunately for Ohio State, Michigan knew exactly when Ohio State was doing it and where the holes were going to be in the coverage because they knew the plays ahead of time. Ohio State doesn't have that luxury, but I do think that this is a game where Kyle McCord is going to be pressured a lot. Like, he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the country rating wise when he's not blitzed, and one of the 10 worst or something when he is blitzed. So I think Michigan's just going to bring the house all day long. And to me, that opens up the door for Treveyon Henderson in a way that I don't think, we've been talking about Trey as a big component in this game, but I think him in the outlet game and the screen game is really where he's going to make a difference on Saturday. I think Treveyon Henderson's going to have 3 touchdowns. I'm not going to say they're all receiving. I could see 2 rushing, 1 receiving. I could see 2 receiving, 1 rushing. I could see 3 rushing. 3 touchdowns for Treveyon Henderson in this game, as he is the guy that will make or break the final outcome, I think. But it really is going to depend on how quickly Kyle McCord can find who he's looking for, because I really do think Michigan's going to blitz him a ton.
I think you're right.
I think it's wild that we don't even have to say that Michigan allegedly knew the other team's playbook and signs.
They've never denied it. Why should we?
They never. Yeah, I know. I mean, that's how quickly this thing went. It's just an accepted fact, which is sad in many ways. But
seasonal effectiveness disorder
comes for us all.
Yeah, that's true. It does. I don't feel it. I like this time of year. It's my favorite. Allie said she was disappointed when it was raining earlier in the week, and I'm like, cold rain, I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
nothing's gonna get me down.
It's weird. It's weird to be the all the time shorts guy and the I like cold rain guy. I feel like they should be different guys.
Yeah, I'm a strange person. That's just have to call it like it is. I have this weird feeling that both of Ohio State's top tight ends are going to score in this game, and I already made a prediction on the pick show that Cade Stover was going to get one. And part of that was my thinking of like Michigan doing things to account for both Marvin and Emeka, and that the middle of the field will be open for Cade, and that feels like a no-brainer. But I thought about like similarities to this game and the legal sign stealing operation that Brent Venables and Clemson had, and some of the solutions that Ohio State came up with in that game, which is like using that 2 tight end personnel grouping so they could run both pass and run plays out of it, the huddle stuff that they were doing, like kind of sugar huddle, and then mixing in tempo, and then a lot of interesting route concepts with both Jeremy Ruckert and Luke Farrell to the same side of the formation. And I think that same sort of thing can happen with Cade and G. Scott Jr. I'm chalking myself into and drilling down to both tight ends scoring, a Cade touchdown and a G. Scott Jr. touchdown in this game to help power that offense. Like, Marvin can get a bunch of catches and a bunch of yards, and Emeka can do the same thing, but I think there's a chance that Marvin might not score a touchdown in this game, and it won't matter. That might be bold prediction number 2, that Marvin's not going to score a touchdown.
So it's a bold prediction on top of a bold prediction.
I'm stacking them. It's a bold prediction parlay. I'm drilling down. If Berm's not going to get crazy this week, then I will.
You're stacking up while drilling down? That doesn't make any sense.
I didn't say it had to make sense.
You're saying makes sense.
It's Freaky Friday, man. There's no rules.
So my turn again?
I guess.
Okay. Okay. Michigan won't rush for 100 yards in this game.
Woo, doggy.
That is
like that. Is that bold? I'm just not impressed with their rushing attack, and maybe I'm being duped by something. I don't know, but I've watched a fair amount of Michigan this year. I think their offensive line is okay. The interior is good. The tackles, I think, are just like fine. Something's different about Blake Corum. He's not as explosive as he was last year. Part of me actually wonders if some long-term damage might have been done to him last year when he clearly should not have played against Ohio State, and then Jim Harbaugh tried to play him, because he's just not the same running back that he was a year ago. The lack of explosion is kind of startling. With the run game as a whole, Donovan Edwards has not been as good this year as he was last year, and I don't see like a very efficient rushing attack. And I know people made a lot of Michigan running the ball however many times in a row it was against Penn State. They averaged like 3.3 yards per carry in that game, and a lot of the damaging stuff was on 3rd and long when Penn State was playing them the pass and rushing everybody up the field, and Michigan just ran a draw play and got a first down. I don't think Ohio State's going to do that. And Ohio State's rush defense, I think, has been pretty good. There have been some cracks here or there, like Notre Dame did some stuff, Rutgers did some stuff, but I think largely it's been reliable, and I think we're going to see the best version of it on Saturday, because I think Ohio State will want to make this a game where JJ McCarthy has to beat them by playing quarterback, and I don't know that he can do that. So I think this is an excellent rushing defensive performance from Ohio State that keeps Michigan under 100 yards for the first time since they lost their playoff game to Georgia a couple of years ago.
How many yards rushing did JJ have against Penn State of the Michigan total that day? Because it seemed like he had a fairly decent number in that game.
I can tell you that in a second.
Before getting hurt.
Yeah, he had against Penn State 8 carries for 34 yards. So a couple of those are sacks, I'd imagine. So I don't know what it was sack adjusted, but he finished with 34.
It felt like every time he ran, though, to Berm's point, it was getting a first down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely had one that was like 3rd and 10. They ran JJ and he got a first down. And there was another like Donovan Edwards run on 3rd and 11 when he ran for a 22-yard touchdown. It's just like I don't think Ohio State's going to let that happen.
Well, Berm's thinking about it. He's been worried about the rush defense. He's really he's going to argue. He's going to argue with you, Bill.
I'm worried about. I'm concerned about the injury to JJ McCarthy and how real it is and how much that affects things. I think it's also so like bizarre because this conversation about JJ last year was JJ McCarthy can't beat Ohio State with his arm, and then he did exactly that. But then, like, because of everything that's happened with Connor Stallions, we look at it from a different lens than we did a month ago. And I think that it's hard to truly know what he's capable of because his numbers, the kid hasn't thrown a touchdown in a month. So like that's wild. He hasn't thrown a touchdown since October 21st against Michigan State. And any one of us could throw a touchdown against Michigan State, I think. So
I did throw one.
He did.
I remember that. I remember, yeah, you were in the fourth quarter. I remember that. But I think JJ McCarthy has a ton of talent, a lot of upside, but I also think he is a player that if you get him off his base, he is willing to make some risky throws and take some chances that he otherwise shouldn't. I think that's why Michigan in the last few weeks has decided, let's take the game out of his hands and not let him do that. Because now that they don't know everyone's pressure situation and know where blitzes are coming from, you've seen the increase in JJ's sloppiness. And that's why I think that, Austin, your prediction a week ago of Steel Chambers was just a week too early. I think that this is the week that Steel Chambers will have an interception. I'm not going to compound it with a fumble recovery and a touchdown and a sack and all that. But I do think that Steel has proven in these types of games where he's got to be put on a tight end. And we're not talking about, Colston Loveland's a good tight end, but I don't think that's going to be a matchup that Steele's in most of the time. I think that's Sonny who will handle that when they're really having him out in routes. But Steele against like AJ Barner or someone else, their backup tight ends, I think Steele can win those. And I think he will win one with an interception on Saturday.
That's a good point. JJ, because of his self-confidence, I think he's going to be more than willing to try and test Denzel Burke. And I think that would be a massive mistake. Denzel has been practically begging for teams to throw on him and an opportunity to make a big play. I thought Tuesday, that's the first time we've talked to Denzel in like 2 months, right, Bill? I mean,
yeah, it's been a while. Yeah.
And I miss it because he is the truth teller. He, like, the first month of the season and then before the injury, he was there for every game. He was regularly available. He was, talking about how I wish we'd had him on Saturday night to talk about the 2 field goals the last 2 weeks, breaking up the shutouts. Cause like in September, he's like, yeah, we should have shut these bums out. I'm like, that's a pretty cool thing to say.
Jordan nearly did that for you on Saturday night.
Yeah, no, he was close. He was close. He wasn't quite willing to go quite to Denzel's level and call them bums, but saying congratulations on scoring points is pretty close. It's a much more optimistic way of doing it, I suppose. But I think Denzel is going to make a major impact in this game. JJ McCarthy will try and test him, probably under pressure. Jack Sawyer coming around the edge forces him to get out there and roll. And Denzel's going to take an interception back to the house, to the big house, to the crib. And that will be another Ohio State touchdown. Denzel Burke with the pick six.
How long?
3 touchdowns for you.
43 yards.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Describe
the play in intimate detail, please.
Yeah, I think it'll be one of those weird play actions that Michigan runs where they're in shotgun. They don't actually give the fake to anybody. Donovan Edwards just kind of like runs straight to the flat without looking for the football. And then JJ will roll to his right. Jack Sawyer will win his matchup easily. Whoever's playing left tackle this week, I don't even know. It won't matter. Jack wins. He flushes JJ to the right. Denzel's in coverage, tries to throw like a 15-yard comeback route, and Denzel's like, no.
Body, across his body. Yeah.
And Denzel takes that, and he's gone. And then JJ pulls up and doesn't even try and tackle him. That'll be the crazy part.
Oh,
he's
wow.
like, ooh, it's a business decision. So
because the knee will start hurting as soon as that interception is.
I don't know that part. I don't know. I just know he's not going to try and tackle Denzel.
It's my favorite thing in sports is when guys who are hurt a little bit, like go out there and play their way through it. And then whenever they have a play that is not ideal, they all of a sudden begin to limp again. That's my favorite thing in sports.
We've all done it.
I love it more than anything. It's like, oh, I forgot. Oh, I'm in pain now. I'm hurting.
The last 2 years, we called that a Tyleik Williams, but we can't do that anymore because he has erased all of that with a fantastic season.
Yeah, he's playing for pain.
And I just want to make sure that I give him credit for that because he's still, I don't think he's ever been 100% this year, but you haven't seen any of that from him. I think he's going to have a big game too. So I'll stack on top of it 3 tackles for loss for Tyleik Williams.
Wow. We're just,
that's like 6 bold P's for you already.
I love it. I love it. It is for
Berm's too nervous to do it this week, and somebody's got to. That's part of bold P's.
That is part of bold P's. You're right. I'm gonna stack some predictions here, but it's all for one player. We're gonna get a JT Tuimoloau legacy game.
Ooh,
on Saturday. I don't think Michigan's tackles are very good, as I said earlier. Their right tackle, Carson Barnhart, I think can definitely be gotten. We'll see what happens at left tackle, but I would like to see JT line up across from said right tackle on every play if we can make that happen. I think he will lead Ohio State's defense in tackles. Let's call it 8. Okay, I think he will have 3 tackles for loss. I think he'll have a sack. I think he'll have a forced fumble, and I think he'll have a pick.
Oh my!
Yeah, how about
that's a super stack.
That's a suit. Yeah, that's the JT Tuimoloau. We'll never forget this guy. Super stack. I'm going to go win the rivalry game by myself.
He has a knack for these in the big games, doesn't he? He elevates his game.
Yeah, and I think he's in the middle of the year. He was like a total game wrecker. Teams could not handle him, and I think around the Wisconsin game, right, he had that weird play where he got kind of folded in half, or like, I don't know, split in half, maybe is a more appropriate way to say it. And I don't think he's quite played the same since then. Maybe he's dealing with a little bit of something, but I think he just lets it all out in this game. Whatever he's got in the tank comes out against Michigan, and I think it's favorable matchups for him and Jack Sawyer to have a big impact on this game. But because JT has the track record of showing up in big games like this, I think we see it against Michigan.
Yeah, he got speared against Wisconsin. Then Rutgers did whatever they wanted running the ball, and it wasn't really a good day for JT. Then against Michigan State, he ends up getting bent in half, and I just don't think his back has been right since that play in the Wisconsin game. So, but he shows up when it matters. That's what he does. That's what JT do. You know,
he sure does.
Michigan is the least penalized team in college football. They've only been penalized.
Don't say.
32 times this season and through 11 games, 32 penalties accepted, which is the lowest in college football.
Well, hold on. They have been penalized 6 games for their head coach.
That does not count for this metric.
Okay.
Michigan is going to have, this is a weird bold P. Michigan will have more penalties on Saturday than Ohio State. Because Ohio State is an undisciplined team at times. Ohio State is going to come out playing with some emotion. I think Michigan has a better chance of Ohio State this weekend of losing their cool in a key moment, and because they are feeling some sort of way about how things have gone. Which, whatever, it's your fault. You did this to yourselves. I hope you suffer. But I do think that there is a potential for them to play a little outside of their heads this weekend, and I think it could be like a Donovan Edwards getting a personal foul, like hitting somebody in the face when he shouldn't. Something weird. I just think that we've seen Michigan play very composed, but they haven't been tested until last weekend. I don't consider the Penn State game a test because much like the Ohio State game against Penn State, there was no way Penn State was going to score enough to win. Maryland outplayed Michigan a week ago. That's the first. I don't think anyone's outplayed Ohio State this year. And until the Maryland game, I don't think anyone had outplayed Michigan, but Maryland gave them the game by giving them 18 points. So I think that Michigan is slightly, ever so slightly on tilt right now. And I would not be surprised if they lose their cool this Saturday. And I think they will draw more penalties against them than Ohio State does, which again, doesn't seem like a big bold P, but in this game that matters. And they have been the best in the country at not getting called for stuff this year.
Berm, you know better. You've been covering this game. They're allowed to do whatever they want on.
Well, I'm not saying they're going to get called for any holds. I mean, that's
no. I'm talking about what you're saying. Like they're allowed to just go like twist off J.K. Dobbins' shoe or grab Cam Brown's injured ankle and like get him ejected from the game somehow. They never get called for that stuff. Like
okay, let me stack on top of this bold prediction. If somebody decides to do that this weekend, the Ohio State player on the receiving end of that sort of shenanigan will not be facing the Michigan team alone. That is a guarantee.
That is a fact.
I wouldn't be. I mean, I'm so close to saying that this game will be called off in the middle of the third quarter because of a stadium clearing ball.
You know, this would have been the perfect year for them to take my suggestion and just play Ohio State, Michigan in Indianapolis and call it the Big Ten championship game.
It would sure be a lot safer for everyone.
Hoosier Dome, baby.
Put it in that Hoosier Dome, Gene's favorite place. You don't have to worry then. The Big Ten officials don't have to make, I don't know what kind of like peace line they're going to form in the tunnel. I don't know how they're going to keep that safe. It won't be. They sent out this thing on Wednesday about the pregame details. Like Michigan's arrival through the tunnel will be at whatever it was, 12:10. And Ohio State's will be at 12:11 and 30 seconds. 90 seconds is all that it takes. And they're not going to like co-mingle and brawl in the pregame tunnel.
Yeah, they probably won't be standing there behind them the whole time.
I mean, what are we doing? And why is Michigan allowed to continue to have this? It's so dumb. This game should have been in Indianapolis.
It's 12:09. Michigan takes the field. 12:10 and 30 seconds. Ohio State takes the field.
And the kickoff is 12:14, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
And that senior day, lots of shenanigans.
I think 4 players are going to get ejected. That's my final bold prediction.
You want to drill down on who they are?
No, I don't really.
Cam Brown, he's going to find a way to show up and get ejected.
They should let Cam Brown come back and like get his retribution. I just think it's going to be ugly. And I've talked about it since Sunday with Zach Bourne about like the danger and the boiling pot and people in the Woody calling it a hornet's nest. And we've all been there. We've all covered it. We know that even in the best of circumstances, like that's about the most uncomfortable place that you can be before the game when the buses arrive and all that. I don't think there's enough security that they could put in place for that. And I think that there's going to in 5 years, they're going to have a new highlight reel of like, you know, it used to just be Bradley Roby and Marcus Hall and like, you know, punches from the 90s. Like there could be 10 new clips from this game. I think it's going to be on the knife's edge and like probably reckless. I hope that I hope it doesn't come to that, but I don't think that the officiating crew can take any chances with letting this get into a brawl. We've seen that happen in the Big House before. In that 2013 game, we've seen it in a lot of other circumstances. I guess the last time in the Big House with Cam Brown against guys coming off the Michigan bench, like I think there's going to be fights and I think there's going to have to be ejections, not for targeting, for fights.
Do you think that there's a scenario here where Ryan Day gets ejected if there's a couple calls that go against Ohio State, knowing how animated he's been throughout this year and knowing how much more this one means to him, that there's a chance he loses control?
Well, he's been close. Like they've had 2 enforced sideline infractions this year, one on Mickey Marotti and one on Ryan Day. Like they've been pretty loosey-goosey with that sideline control. And I don't know, maybe you're right. I'm sure that he's not going to push it to the point of getting tossed himself, but they've got it. They can't afford to have those penalties, which include the coaching staff.
Maybe he would do it just to be a nice guy and even the playing field. Michigan doesn't have its head coach, and he will fall on his sword to make sure that Ohio State doesn't either.
Just walk a mile down the street and knock on Jim Harbaugh's door and like demand that he. Where do you think Jim Harbaugh is going to watch this one now that they're at home? From his house?
I'm sure they have a football office that he will be very close by that he'll be at. Jim Beckler Hall, so he can just get over there right away after the game if they win.
Big glass of milk, yeah.
Okay.
Or if they lose, either way, I think he'll get over there right after the game.
If they lose, he's probably going to be like in Los Angeles trying to get the Chargers job.
Probably not that fast. I think he would probably has to pick up a whistle or something.
You
know,
might-
I forgot I left a whistle at the stadium. I've got to go.
Sounds
was-
just like him.
That was way
This is my Jim Harbaugh impression, guys.
that
It's me,
was-
Coach Hobbs.
We're going to have to work on that one later on Friday night during road breaks.
I need Bill's glasses. Bug-eyed and
Well, you need more than just that if you're going to do a good Jim Harbaugh impression. But you can
glass of milk.
have a couple beers instead and work on that during road breaks later tonight, Friday, as we get ready to cover the game on Saturday. We'll have pregame keys Saturday. Bill and Doug will be in the big house. They'll have the postgame live. We'll get into all that. Snap judgments in the notebook as well. And if Berm survives on the sideline on Saturday, he'll join me for those shows. Again, buddy, there's an audio only. You have to say it. You can't just hold up your shirt.
I say nothing.
He says nothing.
He speaks with actions.
See you
What's
guys
your vibe?
Friday.
What's
See
your
you guys
vibe?
tonight. See you guys tonight for road breaks. Looking forward to that. We're good. We're good to go. I'm
Okay.
nervous. This game,
Now we're
it
getting
means,
closer.
it means so much to so many people. I don't think people can. You just can't grasp it. I know. I mean, Austin, you've lived it now for a decade, but you can't possibly understand what it means to the people that have spent 60, 70 years in this rivalry. It means
Well,
way
I'm
more
gonna-
than families.
I'm going to do my best to cover it for them to the best of my ability. And I hope that they enjoyed getting one day closer with us on the bold. What do we call this? Bold Peas.
This is called Bold Predictions on
Bold
the podcast.
Predictions
Daily,
on the
presented
podcast.
by the podcast on a Freaky Friday.
The Podcast Daily. It has too many names. I can't keep them all straight. Doesn't matter. We'll just call it the game tomorrow. That's nice and easy for me to remember. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy your Black Friday. We'll talk to you tomorrow in Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's Bill Landis and Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. See you then.